Well guys, it's been about a year, so I figured I'd go ahead and show an updated look at my game collection. So currently I'm living in a loft and I kind of just have my game collection set up on one half and then kind of all my business stuff on the other. Let's go ahead and get into games. I guess we'll start off with PS1. I think at this point, it's getting between PS1 and PS2 that's becoming my favorite console to collect for. I pretty much grew up with PS1 and PS2, so on any given day, I don't know, it just depends. But I do gotta say, the PlayStation 1 like artwork, case design, all of it is my favorite case designs, artwork designs of any console. I just think like just the PlayStation logo with the ESRB right there, the artwork in the square, just everything about it to me is just like, you know, to this day, there's still a lot of PlayStation 1 games that have aged very well, and there's some that always surprise me. Like, one that surprised me was Parasite Eve. I didn't know what to expect with this game. I thought it was going to be a survival horror game, but it's not. It's an action RPG with excellent controls and excellent battle mechanics. Fantastic music. Pretty much everything about this game, I think, is aged very, very well. And that says a lot because there's a lot of PS1 games, especially ones in the horror genre, that I think have aged very poorly. Specifically, I'm talking about Resident Evil, Dino Crisis, even Silent Hill. But this game to me was a really pleasant surprise. And of course, my favorite PlayStation 1 game is going to be over here on my Crash shelf, and it is, of course, Crash Bandicoot Warped. This is the first game I ever remembered playing. I've got the holographic cover here. There's just something about this game that always keeps me coming back. It's not a perfect game. In fact, I don't even think it's the best Crash game. I would say the best Crash game ever made is definitely Crash 2. There's something about Warped that always keeps me coming back. My PlayStation 2 collection is getting a bit ridiculous. I kind of am, I don't know if I'm gonna go for it, but I'm starting to think I might go for a PlayStation 2 full set one day. I can't do it now because I literally don't have the space at all to expand my collection. In fact, I'm starting to have to throw games on the bottom shelf just out of order, which sucks. I need to definitely work on that. PlayStation 2, it's probably my favorite console of all time. Again, that's maybe tied with PS1, but I would say out of any console that exists in terms of like value to what you can get, PS2 is probably like the greatest console of all time. There are so many fantastic games and experiences on the PlayStation 2 to this day that are super affordable and are just like some of the best games of all time. Devil May Cry, a little janky by today's standards, but the environment, the music, just the way this game feels, it is absolutely fantastic. This is my favorite Devil May Cry game for sure. I'd absolutely recommend it to anyone. And hey, a game as fantastic as this is only like 10 bucks on the PS2. You can find them cheaper than that, but a lot of the Sony games don't have that Nintendo tax. A game as good as this, if it was on GameCube, this would be like a $40, $50 game. But because it's on PS2, 10 bucks. Can't complain about that. Some of my other favorite PS2 games are the Tony Hawk's series, and my favorite is definitely going to be Tony Hawk's Underground. I think this game's story mode is the best out of any Tony Hawk game ever made. Eric is such a great villain, and getting to create your own character and just the controls of this game, the moves are just fantastic. And it's got one of the best soundtracks of all time. But my favorite PlayStation 2 game, and a game I think everybody should play at least once, is Jak 2. There's something about this game that I just absolutely love. On paper, I shouldn't, because it's this weird like response to the gaming industry, because Jak 1 was just a very, not basic, but kind of by the numbers, very quality, well thought out 3D platformer made for all ages. And then this game is basically a response to Grand Theft Auto 3. This game would have never been made had it not been for the way the industry was changing. But I don't think that really affects the quality of this game. I love the weird, dark angst in this game. I love the controls. I love the gameplay. The story is so just like bizarre, but it all fits together so well. I love this game. I really do. I think it's the best Jak game, bar none. And now that you can play it on PC because a group of modders have recoded it, decompiled it, or whatever, and have ported it to PC at this point, absolutely fantastic experience. My favorite PlayStation 2 game of all time. You know, I really don't have too much to say on PlayStation 3. Growing up, me and my brother were mainly playing Xbox 360 in the beginning of the generation. I did get a PS3 later on, and there are some PS3 games I played, but if I'm being honest, I really have not touched a lot of my PlayStation 3 collection. If I had to choose a favorite game out of all of these, you know, I didn't play it on PS3, I played it on PS4, but Yakuza 4 is a really fantastic game. It's probably one of my favorite Yakuza games. I have played Catherine before, I played it on 360, but I'm sure the PS3 version's even better. This is a really great puzzle game. I'm not usually into puzzle games, but this one is so weird and bizarre and just has that Shin Megami Tensei charm that I'd recommend anyone check this thing out. I guess if I had to choose a favorite PS3 game, I'm gonna just go with the cop-out, The Last of Us. I think The Last of Us 1 is an absolutely fantastic experience. If you're gonna play this game, play the PS4 version, don't play the PS5 version. And definitely don't play this version unless you're just like, I don't know, just really wanna play the PS3 version for some reason, because this thing runs at like 10 frames a second and has tons of loading, and just definitely go for the PS4 version. But no, this game is fantastic. This game is really, it's just a really great experience. The gameplay is nothing special. Like if you just had to rank it as a game, I'd call it like a 6 out of 10. But the story, the characters, the environment are just so good, it really does carry the game. PS4 is starting to be a console that I'm starting to actually get into and collect for. I got tons of grails for it, as you can see. I guess for now, my favorite PS4 game is going to have to be Persona 5 Royal. It's the one I put the most amount of time into and the one I enjoyed the most. It's just a quality, modern JRPG. I think it's a pretty easy game for anyone to get into, even those who have not played an RPG game or aren't into them. There's pretty much something in this game for everybody. But oh, you know what? I take that back. Definitely Yakuza 0. I played through the whole Yakuza series recently, and Yakuza 0 I think is probably the best one out of all of them. The Yakuza series is just like, it's the perfect modern video game. It's got the flashy graphics of modern gaming, but it's got all of the old school charm of classic games. There's mini games, the stories are ridiculous, the characters are ridiculous, it's actually got fun gameplay. Like, this is what a modern game should be. Not this Assassin's Creed, third-person, boring, walking simulator garbage that comes out nowadays. Now, this is what every modern game should be like. PS5, I really don't have anything too crazy. My collection is still pretty small, and I really haven't touched a lot of this. One I did play through recently was unfortunately the most recent Yakuza game, which I didn't like very much just because of this, just because the plot and the characters in this game I think are just really poorly written and convoluted and garbage, and the gameplay is really not that great in this one. But I do have a lot of the great games that people do love on PS5. I do have Astrobot, I do have Expedition 33, I do have Concord Sealed, of course. I just really haven't gotten around to playing a lot of these, even though there's a lot of games here that I really do want to get into. Here I've got my small Japanese collection with my favorite cover, probably of all time, right here. This, like, Jack 2 cover with Jack turning into Darkshaq on the cover with just like this ridiculous text novel on the front. I love this thing so much. Got my Japanese Crash games here, which I do love that Crash 1 cover. And then I got a PS1 with the LCD screen just chilling right there. I've still got a small Sega collection. Honestly, I'm surprised my Genesis collection is as big as it is, because of any console here, Genesis, if I had to get rid of any console here, it would definitely be Genesis first, because I literally have no nostalgia, no attachment to Genesis at all. So I'm surprised it's actually as big as it is, because when it comes to like consoles I don't really care about, the only time I'll keep games is if I get them dirt cheap or free. But I do have some good games on Genesis. Like, I have all 3 Sonic games, I've got Vector Man. Honestly, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machines is a good one. But yeah, Genesis, I don't know. It's definitely not one I ever usually pop in and play, but who knows, maybe someday. Dreamcast, though, is a console I do like a lot. I had a Dreamcast a long time ago when I was younger. Unfortunately, I sold it. I had a lot of good games for it, too. I wish I kept it so bad, but I've gotten a lot of the good ones back, like my favorite on Dreamcast definitely being Marvel vs. Capcom 2. This is my favorite traditional fighter of all time. I know it's not really like super traditional because it's a 3-on-3 tag game, and it's pretty broken in terms of character balance, but I really love this game a lot. Just the environments, the music, the character, the sprite work in this game is just like bar none the best. Really great game. My favorite Dreamcast game for sure, even though it's not like a Dreamcast specific game, but I do love it. Got my OG Xbox collection here. Honestly, I'm not really a huge fan of the OG Xbox, so this shelf right here, this single layer, is all I'm ever gonna keep. So if I find games that are cool, I'll take out a game like, I don't know, ESPN, whatever, and then I would replace it with a cool game. So yeah, I'm never gonna let it get bigger than this, but I do have some good games here. Like, I'd say my favorite is definitely gonna be Halo 1. I know it's a cop-out, but it really is, I think, the best game on Xbox. It was revolutionary when it came out. It's weirdly enough, like, you wouldn't expect a game like this to be a horror game, but it kind of is. Really great game. There's a few games here I want to play. Like, I've never played the original Ninja Gaiden. Phantom Dust, which I got this one from the Pick and Preacher. That's definitely one I want to play. And then eventually, when I play Shenmue 1, I'm going to want to play Shenmue 2. But overall, not the biggest fan of OG Xbox. But I do like the Xbox 360 a lot. When it came to PS3 versus 360 back in the day, me and my brother, we had a 360, so we were playing a lot of 360 games. We played a lot of Halo 3. honestly, probably my favorite first-person shooter of all time. Great campaign. The Forge mode. Oh my God, the Forge mode. We spent hours on Forge. Just building bases, making ridiculous things, testing out people's maps and stuff. Absolutely fantastic game. Of course, we played all the Call of Duties on 360 as well. But weirdly enough, coming back to the 360 as an adult, I never knew growing up that the 360 had a pretty extensive library, at least in the first half of its life cycle, of really great JRPGs. Lost Odyssey is a great one. The Last Remnant, Infinite Undiscovery, and there's a ton more, but it's just weird to me that like the 360 was so much more of an RPG powerhouse than the PS3 was, at least in the first half of its life cycle, and then Microsoft just decided to give up entirely and just go casual mode once the Kinect came out. But yeah, no, the 360, at least the first half, has a really fantastic library, and it's so cheap. It's so cheap. It's so easy to get into 360. So like any like just beginner collector that just wants to start a collection out of nothing, I'd go for 360. Especially now that there was a huge boom in demand for 360 like a couple years ago when the store shut down or whatever, but since then prices have gone down dramatically, and so it's pretty cheap again. So 360 has a really great library. And then we have Nintendo. A lot of my experience with the NES and the Super Nintendo comes from the Wii Virtual Console. If it wasn't on the Virtual Console, I definitely never played it. NES, I really don't have any attachment for. There is one game on the NES I do love a lot, which is Kirby's Adventure. If I could just choose one game to have on the NES for the rest of my life, it would just be Kirby's Adventure. I think this is a really, really great game. Super late release too. I think it came out in like, what, 91 or something? But yeah, love that one. Other than that, I don't know. There's not a lot on the NES I like. I think a lot of the NES games have really dated themselves just because, I mean, the console is what, technology from like, what, 1982, 83 with the Famicom coming out. So like the games are bound to be pretty basic and are bound to be really limited by the technology of the time. But one console I've come to appreciate is the Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo is where 2D gaming started to really get perfected. And I think some of the best 2D games of all time, still to this day, are on the Super Nintendo. Like something like Super Mario All-Stars, having pretty much all the best 2D Mario games of all time all in one package. I mean, this is like, in terms of value, this is like one of the greatest games ever created. But yeah, I just love the way that Super Nintendo games look, and I do love the sound chip. In terms of, I know there's people always love to argue like which sounded better, Genesis or Super Nintendo. I always thought the Super Nintendo sounded better. The Genesis to me is more like ringy, tingy. I don't know how to describe it, but I think the Super Nintendo games and sound effects just sound so sick. And then we got the GameCube. Oh, the infamous GameCube. This is every reseller's wet dream right here, is finding GameCube games. And I guess for good reason. There are a lot of good games in GameCube, but I don't know. I never was the biggest fan of GameCube growing up. Like me, my brother, my friends, we played some GameCube games because we all had Wiis, because everyone had a Wii. For the most part, I think the only GameCube game I really have any attachment to is just going to be Smash Melee. This is the only one I can think of that I put more than like 10 hours into, and I did put a lot more than 10 into this one. Yeah, for the most part, I don't know. I never really touched a lot of GameCube growing up. I've tried to go back and play some of these, but I've never gotten into a lot of them. Like I tried playing Pokemon XD, couldn't really get into it. What else I tried playing Star Fox Adventures, couldn't get into it. I do have Simpsons Hit and Run on GameCube instead of PS2 just because the frame rate's a lot better. But I did play a lot of that one on PS2. I mean, there's great quality GameCube games. There really are. It's just not one I really grew up with. And then we got the Wii. The Wii is one I've played a lot growing up. Pretty much every game here I have some sort of experience with. New Super Mario Bros. Wii for me. This one was just super chaotic fun. I don't think it's the best New Super Mario Bros. By a long shot. I still think that goes to the first one. But this was fun when it came out, and there really wasn't anything like it too. 4-player platforming action like this, I don't really think was a thing at the time. So it was fun when it came out, but of course, as we know, it got absolutely oversaturated really quick. Still, I think probably the best Mario Kart Wii. Well, I don't know. I'm tied between this and Mario Kart DS, but I think a lot of people would be willing to say that this is the best Mario Kart ever made. And then, I can't forget about Brawl. In terms of just being a fun game to play and the amount of content in the game, this is probably the best Smash game. In terms of mechanics and actually like the way the fighting feels, it's not that great. It feels floaty, it feels weird. I don't like it that much. I prefer something like Melee or even Smash Ultimate over this. But just in terms of like, you need a game with a ridiculous amount of content in it that doesn't get old, this is your game right here. And then I do have a Switch, but honestly, I really don't play it that much. I am planning on playing it. I'm going on a big trip pretty soon, so I'll actually finally open this thing up because, as you see here, you know, I just opened this thing up recently. I've had my Switch just complete in box for like multiple years now. I finally opened it up to take it out and like play something on it. I used to play a lot of Smash Ultimate back in the days. I even tried to compete in tournaments and whatnot. So glad I definitely dropped that pretty quick. But I don't know, I'm not really the biggest fan of the Switch. It just feels like the Wii U, but better, and I didn't like the Wii U. There's a lot of games on the Switch I've not played, and so something I'm actually looking forward to playing is Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. I've played Country Returns, and I like that game a lot, and I've heard this one's a lot better. And then one I've heard a lot of great things about is Xenoblade Chronicles, and I've heard that this is like obviously the best version to play. So these are two games I'm looking forward to playing. Hopefully I like them, and yeah, who knows, maybe I'll become a big Switch collector like one of my buddies. And while I wasn't a huge fan of Nintendo's consoles growing up, I loved the handhelds. Game Boy Advance for me and DS are my two favorite handheld consoles of all time, with I think obviously my favorite handheld game of all time being Pokemon Emerald. I got this really clean complete in box copy a while ago with a bunch of trade credit at a game store. I really appreciated them for taking all that crap in. I wish, the only thing I'm looking for at this point for Game Boy is a couple Spyro games, and then I want to get this I either want to find a box for this and then get rid of this, or find a pink Game Boy to put inside this and then get rid of this. So not really looking for too much more in Game Boy. I mean, finding complete in box Game Boy games nowadays is, at least out in the wild without paying up, is pretty much impossible. But finding DS games is still pretty fun. I spent a lot of hours playing DS games growing up, especially on these four right here. But I'd say one underrated DS game for me that I don't think a lot of people talk about is DK Jungle Climber. This is one of the most unique platformers I've ever played. You don't control the D-pad. You control pretty much the entire game with just the left and right shoulder buttons. It sounds pretty bizarre, but the way the game works is you like grab onto pegs and jump around both screens. It's one of the great examples of DS games that actually like takes advantage of both screens pretty well. I'd recommend this to anybody. And then Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. This is for sure, I would say, I haven't played the Paper Mario games, but I would say this is the best Mario RPG ever created. It's just got tons of charm in it. The battle system is amazing, and the writing is just super clever. Oh, and then I also got to shout out this little gem right here. I did also like the 3DS a lot when it came out. Definitely not as much as DS. In fact, I would say probably a majority of the games I played on my 3DS were DS games, but there's a few 3DS games here I liked a lot. Kirby Triple Deluxe I think is a really great Kirby game. One game I want to play again, because I remember loving this game back in the day, was Kid Icarus Uprising. I'm surprised they haven't made another Kid Icarus at this point, because I'm pretty sure this sold well. Maybe it didn't, who knows. Super unique game. You kind of need like 3 hands to play it, which is why it came with that like 3DS holder thing. Super great game, tons of charm, excellent writing, and honestly for a 3DS game, it looks absolutely fantastic, especially being an early 3DS game. I think this came out only a year after the 3DS came out, so absolutely fantastic there. I'm not really the biggest fan of the Pokemon games on 3DS. I think in hindsight, Pokemon X and Y are decent. Nowadays, it's like popular to kind of crap on X and Y for being generic and blah, blah, blah. But I think they're decent. I played through Pokemon X recently, and it's certainly a lot better than Pokemon Moon. And then finally, I got my PSP collection, and I used to have some Vita games, but nowadays I just keep my Vita around just like as a modded console, because there's really no Vita games that I care about, unless they're like a really big visual novel fan, or you're a fan of playing crappier versions of home console games. There's really not a lot on the Vita to play. And that, I mean, honestly, that kind of goes to the PSP as well. The PSP was kind of like a PS2 portable with worse graphics, worse performance. Like a lot of the fun PSP games are just like games like Star Wars Battlefront, where the PS2 version is better. It's just that this is a portable version. I don't know. I'm not really the biggest fan of the PSP in hindsight. I remember back in the day when I was playing my PSP, I was mainly using it for PlayStation 1 games. All the PS1 games you could play on PS3 through the digital downloads, you could also play on PSP. So I played a lot of the Spyro games, a lot of the Crash games, Jet Moto, Gran Turismo. I played all those on PSP for the most part. But in terms of actual PSP games, I guess one that has always stood out to me, just because I'm a big Jak and Daxter fan, is Daxter on PSP. I think it's a fun enough platformer. I wish this one got a PS2 port, kind of like how the crappy Jak and Daxter Lost Frontier game got a PS2 port, and the two Ratchet and Clank games got a PS2 port. Yeah, this game's decent, but other than that, I'm not really the biggest PSP fan. I showed it off a little bit earlier, but this is where I keep all my Crash Bandicoot games. I've got all the Crash games just here on the shelf just because it is my favorite franchise of all time. And definitely not what I would say is the best franchise of all time, because there's a lot of really crappy games. But yeah, Crash has always been a favorite of mine. I've got some random miscellaneous stuff up here that just like I don't know where to put it. These are two Naughty Dog, actually these three. These are three of Naughty Dog's earliest games right here. Got a Dr. Cortex amiibo there, or Skylander or whatever. This random GameStop DVD test software disc, and of course, one of my favorite grills of all time. Right now I've got a bunch of games up here because I'm setting up for a Whatnot show, but when I'm playing games, I have my PS5, PS3, 360 all set up here to this monitor here, and then this is my computer that I work on, and then I've got my retro section here, which I got my CRT here, which honestly it's a crappy CRT with bad geometry. I need to get a new one, but then I got a switch box here that can play my GameCube, Dreamcast, PS2, and Super Nintendo. Right now my NES, my Wii, and my Genesis are not hooked up. And then over here, this is kind of just all my business stuff. I've got an eBay wall over here, which is empty because it's all my eBay inventory is going to Whatnot right now. I've got an Amazon wall, which is also empty because I just shipped everything off. Then here I've got a bunch of empty cases. I like to keep cases around just in case I find loose discs. And then here's just a bunch of unprocessed stuff. It's mainly just consoles right now. And then I keep like cords and cables and just random crap in these drawers. But yeah, guys, that was the collection. Honestly, I have a lot more now than I ever thought I would have. If you'd have asked me like 3-4 years ago if I'd have had, you know, because I have like 1,000 games now in my collection, I would have never thought I'd have more than 100 games just a few years ago. So super grateful for what I got, and thank you guys for watching.